After talking with Siggy earlier, we now know how much technology goes into making a film look low-tech. But don't forget, someone still has to make all these tools in the first place, which brings us to our next guest. He's worked with everyone from pros directing Hollywood blockbusters to 15-year-old influencers over on YouTube. And the tools and software he helped pioneer have been adopted by filmmakers around the world. Bob Caniglia is the Director of Sales Operations at Blackmagic Designs, which produces DaVinci Resolve, the software Siggy used while working on Togo. Hey, Bob, thanks for joining us. Now, we all know that Blackmagic makes some serious high-end software. Can you tell us some films that it's been used on before?
Oh, sure. It's been used for a long time. And when Blackmagic first bought it 10 years ago, we were right in the middle of trying to get Avatar out to theaters.
Wow.
So, yeah. Matter of fact, they needed to borrow an extra system because otherwise it wasn't going to hit the theaters on time. And since the buses already had the date on there, we had to help.
Exactly. So Togo comes to you, and I saw the movie. Wow. What an amazing story. Never heard that story before in my life. And if you know anything about me, I don't watch movies unless they're true stories. So you had me like at that get-go. But the cinematography is phenomenal. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I was talking with Siggy about this project, and he was saying how, the director and the DP, they just wanted to make sure that they created it so that it looked like it was that time, back in the early 20th century. And so, that is done in a lot of different ways. Obviously, just capturing while you're on set, but also with the color grading. And then, given that they didn't just do color correction, they were adding all kinds of things to it to really give it that feel so that people felt like they were there.
So what kind of tools did Blackmagic provide in the making of Togo?
The Blackmagic Designs DaVinci Resolve software does editing, color grading, and visual effects. Now, for this project in particular, Siggy was using the color component of that as well as Fusion. Now, Fusion is also available as a standalone visual effects software. So we have both of those tools. But then in addition, Siggy has like a big room that has the giant Blackmagic Design advanced panels, and it has hardware. See, we make a lot more hardware than we do software. We have the DaVinci Resolve software, of course, but we also make a lot of hardware for people to be able to get images in and out of computers, as well as the controls.
There's always this thing in the tech industry. Is it the software that makes it, or is it the hardware? And the hardware people say, you can't have the software without us. What kind of platform does this software run on?
Well, that's the thing. Originally, it was developed for just Linux machines only, but now it runs on Linux, Windows, and Mac. And we've really done a lot of work on it to be able to run on laptops. Now, to do a movie like they were doing with Togo, you really need really heavy iron to do that. But that's the thing; it's scalable, so you can start out with just playing it on your laptop. But then, when you're really going to do something serious, you need the big iron.
When you talk about big iron, what exactly is big iron?
Sure. So what you're talking about then is a system that has a lot of GPUs. So you need a lot of external GPUs. But then the real problem is storage. I mean, you need a lot of storage.
Right.
I mean, they used a huge amount in Togo.
When you start talking about storage, then you're talking about local storage and then goes off into the cloud?
Well, for the color part, they would have local storage, but they have a SAN. So they would, I think this one, they must have used like a half a petabyte, so that's a huge amount. So yeah, there's mostly you need local attached storage when you're doing the heavy lifting for the color grading. But even in some instances, you're actually able to have a guy like Siggy who's done this type of work where he would color correct in his room in Los Angeles, but the client could be in London and they could actually be seeing the exact same material. So we call it remote grading, and that's been working well for a long time.
Boy, that's pretty amazing. And all thanks to the internet, right? You couldn't do this, say, 10, 15 years ago, I bet, with a slow line.
Right. So what we're able to do in that particular case, you really want to have duplicate storage, which is easy to do, and you have duplicate systems, also not difficult to do. And then, of course, you need a communication line to be able to speak to everybody, and that's obviously improved over time with the speed of the internet.
So when we start talking about Hollywood films and like you getting involved with the YouTube stars, what exactly have you done there with the YouTube kids?
Blackmagic also makes a bunch of cameras. So we have a lot of cameras cameras that the YouTube guys are using. We even make a new 810 mini little switcher. So it's a video switcher for people who don't really know what a video switcher is. It's got 4 inputs, and you plug a camera in there, you plug your computer output, and then it plugs straight into your computer to look like a webcam. So that way you just broadcast straight away, and people get to get up and running for, a couple $100.
I was just going to ask you, how much is that? Because, I wish we knew you before we built this great big studio. Gosh.
Yeah, it's funny. It's 4-input switcher for $295. It's kind of amazing.
Wow, that is amazing. So do you think like movies like Togo are kind of setting the stage for future productions like this?
People are always looking for creative ways to tell their story. And that's one of the things we do at Blackmagic. We try to enable the masses to be able to tell stories, but you really need to, concentrate on the story you're telling rather than the equipment you're using. But we provide tools to let people, go wild. Like I said, back to the days of, the first movie that I mentioned earlier, which was just, what a project to have everything blue. I remember saying, to the colorist, did you just tell Jim Cameron that you ran out of blue? But, I think that the different stories, you look at Avatar, which was a big one, as I say, and then Togo's got the whole completely different look, and it doesn't look like it's heavy visual effects, but it is, you just don't notice. And I think that is where storytelling goes, where sometimes you don't even notice that there's a lot of visual effects.
I have to tell you, because in preparation for this interview, I actually watched the movie, and I'm sitting there, and I actually paused a few frames to say, okay, can I see where the visual effects are? I don't think I did. I sat there and I couldn't find them. Are there any telltale signs of visual effects?
Well, it depends on the scene, but we don't usually, no one usually reveals their secrets.
Oh, come on. Just a little one? Can't we just have a little one, Bob?
Well, I think it all depends. It's funny because different movies have different things, and sometimes they're obvious what they've done. But the most subtle, I remember years ago, I knew a guy whose job was to fix Kramer's bald spot on Seinfeld. And that's just something no one would notice, but it happened every week.
That's funny. No toupee there. We did it all in post.
Exactly.
So real quick, any advice for any aspiring filmmakers, people that are trying to get into this industry?
Well, it's interesting because today you have a lot more access to information. So you're able to follow the people that you like and enjoy their movies. But my big thing is always, if you can find a way to reach out to somebody in the business, listen. They give you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, even though I use mine too much, my mouth. But I think that the more you listen, the better you can, and just try and get into different areas. I think people always think they concentrate on, I want to be a director. Well, you can't just start there. You have to start with some other areas of it. And I think that the more they appreciate the different aspects, the more they'll be better at that job long term.
Bob, you're fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us and coming on the show today. And if you love shooting movies and you want to make them look great, you can try out DaVinci Resolve for yourself at blackmagicdesign.com. Years ago, DaVinci systems could cost between, get this, $200,000 and $800,000. But today, the software that's enjoyed by millions of users, it's free and offers additional upgrades for professionals. So who's ready to earn that Oscar? Hey, thanks for watching. Now, a few things. Don't forget to click the like button and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for more digital know-how, check out all these other great links.